Media at SAFM.
7 minutes past 10, and it's our Eye On feature right now in conversation with actress Leanne Summers. She's best known for her role as Triplets in the 2007 comedy feature film Big Fellas. Leanne has also appeared in Benellanders and Rhythm City, as well as the SABC's miniseries Stellenbosch. It was on SABC 3, talking to us about her journey in the world of entertainment this morning. And if you have any questions for Leanne, please give us a call on 0891 104 207, 0891 104 207, SMSs to 34701. Leanne, what a pleasure to have you in the studio this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
I was reading your profile, and you were picked out of a crowd at the age of 5 to star in a TV commercial.
It was quite a crazy experience.
Yeah.
I actually think the acting bug bit a little bit earlier than that.
Yeah.
I think at the age of 3 I did some little church play, and I was kind of a goner from then.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I didn't study acting when I left school. I studied psychology.
Psychology at UCT, yes. So you, as you say, you started very early loving the entertainment, and your parents obviously noticed that from an early age, I suppose, that you were a performer.
I think they tried very hard to ignore that for a long time.
Yeah, most parents do. They want you to go and study something that's going to make you a professional, earn a living.
When I left school, acting at that stage wasn't really something that people said could be a professional career in South Africa.
Yeah.
So, you were told be an accountant, be a doctor, be a psychologist, be a lawyer. And it wasn't really pushed as something that you could do as a career.
So I'm sure the psychology, though, has helped in the acting.
It has, because you just understand from studying psychology how the human mind works and how emotions work, and also what crazy people are. So, and all actors are crazy.
As you were saying, I was asking Leanne during the news how what the experience of acting out Triplets in the movie Big Fellas, and I was saying, was that difficult? Just talk us through that.
You know what, it was kind of easy because I had a great makeup artist here and makeup team, and I had different wigs and very different outfits. So the minute you put the wig on, it just kind of became that character. And each character had a specific walk. So I'd walk around outside before I went onto set, and everybody would laugh at me. But it didn't make me any more crazy than I am on a normal day. Yeah.
And how did you get signed on for that?
It was Costa Theo, the one producer that I've known for a long time, sent me the script, and I read it, and then I actually forgot about it. And about 8 months later, they phoned me. Ross Garland phoned me, the other producer, and he said, are you interested? And put myself on DVD, and I sent the DVD through to the director and said, please pick me.
But you'd worked on other productions ahead of that?
I had.
Go back a few steps.
Yeah, I had. That was, I worked on Prey. My first professional movie was Daryl Rutt's Prey. Yeah. And I got edited out of that movie. It happens so often. I mean, it happened to Sarah Silverman, this very famous comedian, 5 times in 1 year.
Wow.
So it's an occupational hazard that happens to everyone, but it was my first movie. Yeah. And when I spoke to Daryl Rutt, he was like, I'm so sorry. The movie was running long. We didn't use your scene. And I was like, okay, thank you. Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I put the phone down, and I proceeded to fall apart crying. But I woke up the next day and I still wanted to do this.
Yes.
So that was just proof to me that I was doing what I should be doing with my life.
And I always say, if you know that you are doing what you meant to be doing, if it doesn't feel like work. Yeah, you get up and it's like and that's what you do. So how did you take that decision then, once you graduated at UCT with the psychology? You then moved to New York to act full-time in the New York Film Academy.
Yeah, what I did was when I finished psychology, I went to my parents and I said, look, I've gotten a degree now, but I really want to be an actress. And when the shock wore off,
I know that conversation.
Yeah, because initially they were like, no, that is not a career. And my dad gave me this golf analogy about, everybody who starts out in golf wanting to be Tiger Woods. How many people actually get to be Tiger Woods? And I'm like, yes, but what if Tiger Woods' dad had said that to him? So I've got to go try. So I worked to save money for about just under 2 years. And then, I went off to New York.
And I want to hear all about New York, the Big Apple. And we're going to take calls as well. Any questions you have for Leanne Summers, the number to dial 0891 104 207. SMS is 341.
Media at SAFM.
have our eye on Leanne Summers this morning, best known for her role as triplets in the 2007 comedy feature film Big Fellas, and also made appearances in Benelanders and Rhythm City. And we'll take calls as well on 0891104207. SMS is 3471. So let's talk about the United States. Cutthroat, from what I understand, and New York and Los Angeles are very, very difficult to crack. I don't know how difficult it must be for someone who's not even from there to get in. But how was New York for you?
I loved New York. I was there for a year and a half. I was studying acting at the New York Film Academy. And it was just the best experience. I mean, to live in the Big Apple from like day 2 when I arrived, I was like, I'm home. I think also because in New York you get to be whoever you want to be, and you don't have your past, like your school, like, who you were at school. You can leave all that behind and just figure out who you are within this huge, well, it's a tiny island, but with 8 million people, it seems huge. Yeah.
And you did a number of stage plays there, if I'm not mistaken.
I did, yeah. They were more amateur plays than professional, because when you're studying, you have restrictions on work permits and that kind of thing. Yeah. But in America, a lot of people do amateur theatre. People just work until they start booking professional work. So it is a lot more cutthroat, but it's also a lot more inspiring and creative, and people are getting out there and making work happen. Yeah. And to draw from all that the city has to offer when you're trying to be a creative person. Yeah. New York's fabulous.
And when you're going to take on a role, well, what do you do? What's your process of just understanding what to get out of the character, what the whole movie's about? What do you do in that process?
When you start off, I mean, if you've got a bigger role, sometimes you have a smaller role and they just give you those pages. So, it's a little bit more difficult to see where you fit in the whole story of the movie. But if you have a bigger role and you have the whole script, you always read it over and over and over again, because all the information that you really need, they've given you in that script. Yeah. Then once you've done that, say, for example, if I'm playing a drug addict, then I'll go do a whole bunch of research, which is not taking drugs.
Yeah, we've heard that story.
They know. It's going on the internet and researching what the different drugs do to you, what the side effects are, how it makes you feel, and then also going to speak to people and getting their personal stories and their personal experiences, and then you start to just build and mold all of that into this person that you create. Yeah.
I understand you were a dancer, but then had a back fracture. How was that?
I loved dancing. It was a passion of mine. But I used to do springboard diving in high school. Yeah. And we used to train at Ellis Park early in the morning, and I did the dive wrong, and I fractured my spine. Ow. In matric. It was the beginning of matric. So, that kind of put paid to any dancing career.
Oh no, not with a fractured back. But I mean, you want to be as well-rounded as possible, and that does add to the repertoire of what you can bring to a movie.
Yeah, and most actors are sort of like a jack of all trades, and we do take a whole bunch of different strange things, because when you're doing a movie, it's not about fooling the everyman. It's about fooling the person that does that job. To make them believe that you're really that person. So you do tend to learn like a lot of interesting different new skills. Colin and I and Clayton and I are now learning Italian. And that's more just a personal, we wanted to do it, but it helps with it really does help on your CV and with your acting. Yeah. You never know when you're going to need to pull it out.
And sound Italian on top of that. Yeah. Back to South Africa, when did that happen?
End of 2005. Sort of July, August 2005.
And why did you make that decision?
If I'm being perfectly honest, my visa ran out. I love South Africa, and I'm really glad that I came home. But at that point in New York, I wasn't sort of ready to leave. The decision was made for me because of my visa. So I cried for years on the plane home. The air hostess even offered me Valium. She was like, I really don't know what's wrong, my love, but we have Valium on the plane.
Did you take it out?
No. I curled up and sort of dealt with it. But it was actually the best decision I never made to come home, because I've done so much more work than a lot of my friends in the States. It's hard there. It's really tough there. To do it here and to get a showreel and get a bit of a CV and then go is much better. I mean, if I look at how well Hakeem Kazim is doing and Koki Falco, they all did it here first and then hopped over the pond to LA.
So your first gig when you got home, what was it?
Was
wow.
And it was about 2 months after I got home, and I was like, wow, this is easy.
I can't believe I've got a feature.
This is going to be great.
Yeah.
And then I didn't book work for about 8 months after that, which was terrifying. But then it sort of started happening. I've been very lucky to work consistently since then.
And it's interesting because, like you say, you're a freelancer, so you don't know where your next job is going to come from. And as they always say, you're only as good as your last gig.
Yeah.
So everything that you put your effort and your work into has really got to pay off, because that's probably where someone's going to spot you for the next thing.
The next thing, absolutely, yeah.
Now, you've also done Benelanders. Did you have to...
No, I spoke English.
Oh, you speak English? Okay.
Actually, I auditioned in Afrikaans.
Yeah?
Because I do speak Afrikaans. Yeah. My Afrikaans friends will disagree. But I do speak it. But my character was English, so it was easier for me.
And can you tell us about your character? How long were you on Benelanders?
No, I was on Benelanders very, very, very quickly. It was sort of an on and off thing.
Yeah.
I played a girl that Dr. Nathan used to know, and she came into town and really, really liked him, but he was with Nadia's character, so I got shut down pretty quick.
Get her out of town.
Yes,
get her out of town.
But I have a lot of respect for soap actors.
Yeah.
They work under such pressure in terms of time. It's like one take. Thank you, moving on.
Yeah.
So I have a lot of respect for them. They work really hard.
And as you say, in the South African sector, we watch a lot of, obviously, lots of soapies, local soapies, and we don't understand the kind of work that goes into it, because they're there every single day. This is like, it's their job.
7 to 7, and then they get home and they've got to learn their lines for the next day. I have a lot of respect for our soap actors in South Africa.
And would you take on a full-time soapy role? Is that something that you'd want to do?
I don't know. I mean... Next year for me is obviously bringing Fat Pig up to Joburg, so that'll take a couple months because I'm producing and acting.
Yeah.
I have a couple of films lined up. So, you know what, yes, if something came along, like, I'd be happy to take it. Whether I'd do it for like 3 or 4 years is a different story. I get bored very quickly.
Join the club.
So I'm an actor. I get to be a policeman and then a neurologist and then a lawyer. It's fabulous. You never get bored.
And do you ever get stuck in one character? I mean, that's probably what happens with a lot of soapies. But do you fall in love with the one thing and you wish you could play that more often? Is there one character that you've played that you think
you do
got into that?
With theatre, especially because you're doing the show every night. When I did the Mercy Seat in June, July, I played a horrible, horrible woman, but I absolutely loved playing her. She was so fantastically awful to her boyfriend. And that was a lot of fun, but it sticks with you sometimes once you're done with the production. You find yourself saying things to people and you're like, oh, that wasn't me.
That wasn't me.
That was Abby. And that's interesting. To sort of shake a character off when you're done with it.
And how long does that generally... Because you have to live that person, I suppose, on a day-to-day basis until filming wraps up, and often that might be months.
Often when you're filming, you get home at night and you can shake it off pretty quickly. But sometimes, like, weeks after you're done, suddenly it like pops back into you and you're kind of like, whoa.
What was that?
It's like being possessed for a second.
Now, pressure in terms of producing, because you're also producing and acting in the same production. How does that work? How do you split those roles?
I'm a control freak, so I like having the power of producing. I like being the boss. But what I did with Fat Pig, especially in the last week, because it does get tricky when you're trying to do both. So I actually eventually brought a witch's hat into the theatre. And I said to everybody, when the hat is on, I'm producing. When the hat is off, I am acting. When the hat is on, I don't want to hear about acting questions. When the hat is off, I'm not the producer. So, I use the witch's hat, but you just have to try and split the two.
Now, in terms of what you prefer, theatre, film, or is that an unfair question?
It's an unfair question. I mean, just having done 2 theatre shows back to back, I'm looking forward to getting back to film and then back into the theatre. I love film. That's my number one passion. It's where I'm most comfortable. But theatre is something, and Colin and I, again, we're having this conversation where if you do theatre every few years, it's challenging. It just makes you, like, really use your instrument again. And sometimes I think, we get lazy with film because we get take 2 and take 3 and take 4. In theatre,
live, my friends.
It's live. You got to roll with the punches in theatre.
I've always struggled with anything that's pre-recorded because I've got at the back of my head that thing that, if I mess up, I can do it again. But when it's live, there are those butterflies. And you sit and you've got to get it right. And you've got to get it right first time. Otherwise, you've messed it.
And the audience notices.
And having your audience in front of you, is that a bit... Because especially when you've done a lot of film and then you come in and you have to now be on a stage and your audience is right in front of you, is that disconcerting in any way?
No, it's actually fabulous because you can hear them responding to you.
Yeah.
Well, if they don't respond, then it gets a bit scary. But if they are responding, you feed off that energy and you can feel different audiences almost like different nuances in a performance. So if you hear them laughing at certain stuff at the beginning of the show, tonight that's the route the show is going to go.
Okay.
But at the end of Fat Pig, I'm standing on stage in a swimsuit, and that was terrifying. Because you're right on the edge of the stage, and the audience is right there, and there's no Photoshop in theatre.
No, never mind. I was going to say I'm going to try this, but never mind. So what do you make of the state of the local movie industry? I know we use quite a lot as a location. I've seen a lot of homemade, South African directed, produced movies start to come out. What do you think of the direction that we take?
We're definitely going in the right direction. I mean, a couple of years ago, we were nothing more really than a film service industry, which means the overseas movies come here, they hire our crew, our locations, very few of our cast, and shoot. Now, I look at things like Skoonheid, which is doing so well, and we are churning out a lot more movies, and every time we do it, the quality is starting to get better. I think, where people in South Africa sometimes, and as an audience, I don't blame you because you're paying the same price for a South African movie as you are for a blockbuster American movie, but we work under such different budgetary constraints and time frames. They have 3 months to shoot a movie. We do it in 3 weeks, So we're getting there. We just need the support to help us to get there, because if people don't support local film, we're not going to be able to keep making movies. Yeah, you gotta love us in the beginning so that we can get to being great, to doing things like Skoonheid, like Yesterday, like Tsotsi, the movies that really are making an international splash. I would say District 9, but I consider that an international movie.
We'll have to leave it there. And Spud also has poses.
Oh, Spud, of course, and that was Ross, I've worked with him before.
Loved Spud. But thank you very much, Leanne. Great talking to you. You can follow Leanne on Twitter. You are at Seasonista. I was about to call you something else. Seasonista. Leanne Summers, South African actress. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you.
Fantastic.